What's going on, guys? Sean Birdsong here, Sharon Ledalon. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Court. Today we have a special guest with us today, 12-year NBA veteran, four-time NBA All-Star, and a member of the National Basketball Collegiate Hall of Fame. My dad, Mr. Otis Birdsong. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Sean? I'm glad you trimmed your beard. Last time I saw you, you looking like James Harden.
It was cold earlier, so I had to trim it down a little bit.
You have that youthful look back, thankfully.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
He worries about it because then he ages. That's why.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So speaking of James Harden, you played 12 seasons in the NBA. 7 of those years you played in New Jersey. We're gonna get to your career in a little bit. But the Nets made a big trade during this season with James Harden. Have you been watching the Nets this year? And how far do you think the Nets can go?
Of course, I've been keeping up with the Nets, especially because of the relationship that I have with the owners, Joe and Clara Sy, and Oliver Weisberg, of course. So I follow the Nets closely. It was a great trade. I had some concerns initially. I didn't think Harden, because he's so used to having the ball in his hands, that he would fit in. And the jury is still out because he's able to play with the ball now because Durant is not there. When Durant gets back, now it's going to be whether or not those 3 guys can share the basketball. And if they do that, I don't see anyone beating them in the East. I would say they definitely should be in the NBA Finals. And it would be interesting to see them play the Lakers, especially if the Lakers are full speed.
Yeah.
Now, you're from Winter Haven, Florida. Can you talk about, what it was like growing up in Winter Haven, Florida? And, was sports always a part of your life?
No, not really. Well, and then again, I say basketball wasn't always a part of my life. Growing up in Winter Haven, the Boston Red Sox used to spring train in Winter Haven. So all of us were huge baseball fans. All of us grew up playing baseball. All of us aspired to be professional baseball players. That's what we wanted to do because of the Red Sox. And we integrated the schools in Winter Haven in like 1968, 1969. Wow. And we went out for the football team. All of us were playing football. And it was so many of us out for the team. It was like 500 kids tried out for the team. They had all of the white players from last year who was on the team. And then they had all of the black players in school who were trying out. So the coach said, if you're late to practice, if you miss practice, if you're injured and can't play, you're going to get cut. I got hurt the first day. I sprained my ankle the first day of practice, tryouts, and they cut me. And I never played football again. I just started focusing on basketball, and that was in the 9th grade. So that's when I really started focusing on playing basketball. But football was secondary. Baseball was the sport when I was growing up. But I started playing basketball in the 9th grade because I got cut in football.
Right. Now, I remember you told me stories, of course, with your battles with Uncle Norris and everybody, grandma had, 12 kids. So how was that competition-wise, sports-wise growing up for you to have an older brother to compete with, but also other siblings to just, be involved in sports and things like that?
Well, actually, I was very fortunate because Norris and I are a year apart, and we competed against each other in Little League Baseball. In fact, my team played his team in the Little League so-called World Series. It was the championship series. And growing up, we used to take baths together. Mama used to conserve water, so he, my brother, we would take baths together. I'm just telling you the truth.
Right.
And so we won the championship. We beat them in like the 7th game. And after the game, he and I almost like twins. He would not shake my hand. He didn't talk to me. we competed and worked out against each other all through high school. I mean, he was playing football. He stopped playing basketball and was focusing on football, and eventually got a football scholarship. But he was so competitive. He could have made it in basketball. I mean, he was a heck of a basketball player. In fact, when we were in the ninth grade, he came from the football team, and he was our leading scorer because he shot all the balls. I shot less and made more, but he took more shots and made less, but because he was getting more shots, he was the leading scorer. And Mama used to tell him, why you shoot all the time? You need to pass the ball to Otis. He would shoot. When I tell you he shot every time, that boy shot every time. Mm. But it really helped having him. Like when I would go run 5 miles a day, he would be right there running with me. We would lift weights together. We would compete against each other. So it was a huge help to have a sibling like that push me, and I pushed him as well.
That's good to know. So since you played basketball in ninth grade, can you tell our viewers a little bit about your high school experience?
Sharon, growing up, like I mentioned, in Winter Haven, we didn't integrate the schools till like I was in the 8th or 9th grade. And so when back then, the 9th grade kids were not in high school. It was just strictly a junior high school, 9th grade only. So by the time I got in high school, we had a JV team in the 10th grade. And our varsity team was so good, even though I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I was really good in the 10th grade, but they couldn't bring me up because our varsity team was like, they lost one game my 10th grade year. They were like 30-1. They lost in the state championship in 7 overtimes.
Wow.
7 overtimes. I was there in Jacksonville, Florida. But it still was, integration was still new. So you had all white coaches. And my junior year, even having a great sophomore year, the guy that I was playing behind, his dad was the president of the Booster Club. The entire school knew that I should have been starting. It was the first 3 or 4 games. And I was upset. I was mad. I was complaining. Everybody knew I should have been starting. So the coach, the white coach, sent me to the guidance counselor, who was Black. And because he had told me if I kept complaining, they were going to kick me off the team because I was disrupting the team and the school. So the guidance counselor told me, said, Otis, look, your time will come. Just be quiet. Let it go. Sure enough, the guy severely sprains his ankle like a game later. Seriously, I'm not making this stuff up. He severely sprains his ankle, and he never got off the bench again.
It was fate. Right.
Well, that's one way.
That's a true story.
I know.
Story. So my junior year, we should have won the state championship my junior year. We were like ranked 3rd in the nation. In the state. And going into the playoffs, you played 2 regional games. 2 district games, 2 regional games, and then the state playoffs. Well, we had the district in our gym. The district tournament was in our home gym. The team we were playing in the first round, we had beat them twice, blown them out. But I was the only underclassman starting. So we lost. The seniors left the locker room laughing and joking. The underclassmen, we were devastated, crying, everything. And the coach told us, you all will be seniors next year. Don't let this happen to you all. And of course it did. My senior year, we won the state championship in 1973. And to this day, when even high school, the boys, they've been like 3 or 4 times, but we haven't won it since. The girls have won it like 6 or 7 times. In fact, the girls were there this year in the state. They lost, but they've won it like 6 or 7 times.
Right.
So when were you?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I said, when were you noticed by, I guess, like you said, starting junior year, senior year? By senior year, you were already getting offers or being looked at by people and, to your university to go to college? When did that start really being
Sharon,
scouted
you got to
for?
keep in mind now, it's not like it is now. Like the ESPN 100 and the All-American game and all that. We didn't have that back then. We had a high school All-American game in Florida, but it wasn't like it is now. They started recruiting these kids in grade school.
Right.
They know about these kids. So I really wasn't thinking about getting a scholarship. I wasn't playing ball for a scholarship because mama made sure all of us went to college anyhow. I'm from a family of 12, like Sean mentioned. 11 of us went to college. The majority of us graduated from college. The 12th one didn't go because she was physically challenged. So she couldn't go.
Okay.
So,
I wanted to ask you, we talk about on the show, beyond the court, about perseverance, a lot of things, of course we get into the stuff that happens on the court, but we like to, talk about perseverance and people getting through things. And I remember you told me, like I said, a million stories, but one in particular thing I wanted to bring out, during, you mentioned your junior and senior year, you were at an awards banquet, if I'm correct. And I want you to tell this story, but I want to kind of paint the picture. You're at an awards banquet and I guess your best friend, Dennis, that was your teammate. It was a situation that happened. Can you go into that story? Because I look at that like that to me is what probably, motivated you going forward from college and so on. Can you talk about that experience?
well, my junior year, I was the only underclassman that was starting. And Dennis, who is a good friend, he was the sixth man.
Okay.
And we go to the awards banquet. We had a banquet every year. I was the second leading scorer on the team my junior year. And so certainly I'm going to get some kind of award, most improved or something. And so we go to the banquet because back then trophies were huge. I mean, that's what we lived for. When you got a trophy back then, man, it meant something. Now everybody gets a trophy. They give all the kids trophies just for showing up. But back then you really had to earn your trophies. And so Dennis won most improved. And he gets his award and he stands up and he says, this year I won most improved. Next year, I'm going to win everything. And I mean, that just devastated me. So I went home after the banquet and I was on the car porch. Back then, that's what you had, car porches instead of garages. Open. And my brother came outside, my oldest brother, Nathaniel. He said, Otis, why are you crying? Because I didn't win nothing. I should have won something. He said, well, you can win something next year. I said, I'm going to win this next year. I'm going to average 30 points a game, and I'm going to win everything. He said, Otis, you can't average 30 points a game. I mean, it's high school. No one averages 30 points a game. And he was right. I didn't average 30 points a game. I averaged 33 points a game. And it's funny because the coach came to me before the banquet because I led the team in scoring, rebounding, assists, steals, free throws, everything. He said, Otis, rightfully so, you should win every award. He told me this before the banquet. He said, but we can only give you the MVP. We can't give you every award. And I was fine with that because we had won the state championship. I wasn't worried about that. But to your point, Sean, how disappointments motivate you, the same thing happened my junior year at the University of Houston. I played in the Pan American Games my sophomore year. We won the Pan American Games in Mexico City. And the Pan American Games are pre-Olympics.
Right.
So that's the year before the Olympics. We won in Mexico City, got a gold medal, everything. I was voted MVP. So we have the Olympic trials. Dean Smith is the coach. He took 7 players from the ACC, 5 players from his own team. I was an alternate. I was devastated. They told me I was the first alternate. If somebody got hurt or couldn't go, then I would be on the Olympic team. I said, if somebody broke their leg, I'm not going because I should have made it. And Dean Smith told them, well, Otis didn't make it because he's such a great scorer. I wouldn't know how he would have fit in with the team as far as, come on, are you kidding me? You took 5 players from your own team. So I was so devastated. I asked Guy Lewis, please, coach, get a game with North Carolina, whatever you do, please. I want to play them my senior year. And we were in Florida. I was out in front of the house and Mama came. I said, oh, this Coach Lewis is on the phone for you. He was calling me from Houston. I was in Winter Haven. He said, I got some good news in some bad news. I said, well, give me the bad news. He said, I couldn't schedule a game with North Carolina. They wouldn't do it. I was devastated. I said, well, what's the good news? He said, I got a nationally televised game at UCLA on New Year's Day. At UCLA, I scored like 43 on New Year's at Poly Pavilion at the time, which was the record. It still might be the record at Poly Pavilion. And John Wooten happened, who wasn't coaching, he was in the stands. And he said that's the greatest performance he had ever seen from a guard at UCLA. So disappointments, didn't make the Olympic team, was an alternate, but it fueled my senior year at the University of Houston when I averaged 30 points a game at Houston, shot 58% from the field. We lost in NIT finals, and I ended up being the second pick in the draft. So to your point, disappointments off the court definitely fuels players to play better once they get on the court. Driven.
Right.
So on that note, when you got second in the draft, we're going to go to the NBA history. Did you, by your senior year, or was it junior year, that you looked at playing professional basketball out of college? Was that always?
That's a good question, Sharon, because my junior year, I still wasn't thinking about the pros, or my sophomore year. But the Houston Rockets, the first 2 years, the arena that they played in back then wasn't built. So the first 2 years, they played their home games at our gym. So we got in every game free. Every Houston Rockets game, if we were in town, we got in free. I got to go in the locker room. I remember walking in, seeing the Celtics, and I was devastated because I was a big Celtics fan, and JoJo White was in the locker room smoking a cigarette. I'm like, he's smoking a cigarette. I was a sophomore. I could leave it. The pros would smoke cigarettes. But the Rockets would practice and play at our gym. So I got to practice against them sometime. And I remember Ed Ratliff and Rudy White, some of the guards who played for the Rockets. I was like a sophomore and I was holding my own. I was like, that's the first time I thought about playing pro ball. Like, maybe I can play because I'm a sophomore and I'm out here handling these guys, you know. And actually my junior year, I thought about going hardship because back then they had the ABA. And if I had gone hardship, I would have gone first round for sure in the ABA. I don't know about the NBA, but for sure in the ABA. But because I wanted to play in the Olympics, I went back to school. But I actually was thinking about going hardship my junior year, and I talked to Mama, and she said, "No, don't leave school." She wanted me to play in the Olympics, and that's why I tried out for the Olympic team instead of going hardship.
Now, your senior year, you know, you had a lot of accolades and stats to propel you to go into the NBA. You know, you led the team in scoring over 30 points a game. You were named an All-American, Consensus Choice All-American, and you were Southwest Conference Player of the Year. And also later on, you know, you ended up being Southwest Conference Player of the Decade. You get drafted number 2 in 1977 by the Kansas City Kings. What was the feeling like for you to, you know, go through the experience in high school, playing basketball, going through the experience in college, and now you saying that, which is news to me, I didn't even know that you had a chance to leave after your junior to potentially go to the ABA. You get drafted to the NBA. What was that like for you, and what was that like for the family during that time?
Well, coming from a small town like Winter Haven, of course, the family was ecstatic. You never dreamed that, you know, you would end up in the NBA. I always played basketball, even when I went pro, for the fun and the love of the game. I really did. Getting paid was extra, but I loved the competition. I loved playing against the best in the world every night. It was so much fun. I enjoyed playing the game of basketball, I really did. The money was secondary. I never played for the money. The money is a byproduct of when you play well, they pay you. They don't just give you money. And so I just love playing the game. The camaraderie with the teammates, like especially in Kansas City, you know, Phil Ford, Sam Lacey, Scott Wedman, Josie Merriweather, Reggie King, all those guys, Billy McKinney, Cotton Fitzsimmons, the coach. I mean, we were a family. on and off the court. We did stuff all the time together. And so it was so much fun playing the game. But it's different now, you know, with the hoopla, they bring in all the players to New York and all this entertainment. When I was drafted, I already knew I was going to Kansas City. They had made contact with my agent. I had talked to him. In fact, I was in Kansas City the day of the draft. They sent before the draft started. I went out to the Royals Park and met Freddie Patek, some of the Kansas City Royals, and Willie, I can't think his name. A lot of the Royals players, met the coaches of the Royals. They showed me around Kansas City. I knew I was going to be drafted by Kansas City. I was in Kansas City the night before the draft. And after the press conference, I flew home to Tampa. It's the first time I ever saw Eva, my oldest sister, and I got a picture to prove it. She had a beer in her hand. I couldn't believe it. Eva Birdsong, the oldest sibling, had a beer in her hand. I got a picture to prove it.
Right.
And it was a fun night. I mean, I was like actually in shock. I still couldn't believe it at that party. You know that it just doesn't hit home. It really doesn't hit home until training camp and you start playing in the league. You know, you can get drafted, you can start working out and play, but until you actually put on an NBA uniform and start playing, it's not real to you. It really isn't.
Right. Now, during your time in Kansas City, you know, you were there for 4 years. 3 of those years, you were named an NBA All-Star, and you also, you know, you're part of a team that went to the Western Conference Finals in 1981 against, you know, the Houston Rockets. Now, you go through that situation. Now you're a free agent. What was the free agent process for you like? And you know, you were at that time the highest paid, or you signed as the highest paid guard in NBA history, $1 million contract. What led up to that, and what was that process like for you?
The year that I was in my last contract, the timing was just right. In fact, Cotton Fitzsimmons came to me. David Thompson was the highest paid player in the league at that time. He was making $700,000 a year. And Kansas City, they really was kind of unstable. They didn't have a lot of money, but I really wanted to stay in Kansas City. I really did. And so Cotton said, Otis, we don't have a lot of money, but what we want to do is we want to offer you like $600,000 a year. And I said, now let me see. David making 700. He's the highest paid. I said, I just had my career high on David. I just dropped 49 on him. No, we're not going for 600. And so at the time, it was the right of first refusal. This was the first year that this policy was in effect, which means that you could sign with any team for any amount of money, and your team that you're currently playing for have an opportunity to match it. Well, you know, Kansas City, they don't have any money. If you go past 600,000, they're not going to be able to match.
Right.
And Ted Stepien, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers at the time, he signed me, and Bob Wolf was negotiating. He really wanted me. And he said, well, we're going to pay you $1 million a year. How you going to say no to that? Not only that, he signed Scott Wedman. He signed James Edwards. He signed Bobby Wilkerson. All of these great players, starters for their teams. I'm like, and I had a sister in Cleveland. I'm like, it's going to be great. And I love the arena. I always had great games in Cleveland at that arena, that old arena that they used to have. I said, I'm out of here. I want to stay in Kansas City, though. I wanted to stay. But they didn't have the monies, and it showed because as soon as I signed, Scotty left, and then Sam ended up being traded to New Jersey, and Phil was gone. They just didn't have the resources, and then eventually the team was gone. But we were in the Western Conference Finals. If we had kept that team together, I do believe we could have eventually. In fact, we were good enough to go to the finals that year. The Houston Rockets with Moses Malone beat us. They beat us. We beat them during the regular season 4-2 because they were in our division. We beat them 4-2. We played them 6 times. Phil Ford and I just gave their guards fits. And but I had a severely sprained ankle
Okay.
during that playoff run. I came back, but I wasn't 100%. Phil Ford had eye surgery. His eye socket was broken. He got a thumb in his eye socket. He missed the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. He shouldn't have played against the Rockets. He couldn't see out of one eye. So they just got on that blind side and he couldn't see. And he was scared to go to the basket. He couldn't shoot. And Dale Harris, who was the assistant coach, every time he sees me to this day, he tells me, Otis, if you and Phil had been healthy, there's no way we beat you all in the Western Conference Finals. There's just no way. Because we beat them 4 out of 6 during the regular season. They just couldn't do nothing with us. But it was just meant for them to go. And Moses was a monster, man.
Oh, yeah, he was. Now, tell us a little bit about the transition from Cleveland to the Nets.
What ended up happening was I signed with Cleveland, and Kansas City matched the offer, even though they couldn't afford it.
Wow.
And they traded me to New Jersey. They traded me for Mike Woodson and draft picks or something. I don't know what it was. But I ended up going to New Jersey. And those were toughest 7 years I ever had. In fact, I was in New Jersey for 7 years, and I played for 5 different coaches.
Wow.
The only good thing happened in New Jersey was Sean and Sydney was born. But playing for that team, I mean, Michael Ray, I met Michael there, and he and I are good friends to this day. But besides that, playing for 5 different coaches in 7 years, that's 5 different systems. And all of the great players that came through there that they traded, I mean, it was just hard. It was so unstable. Whereas in Kansas City, it was just so stable. In New Jersey, they were trading players every week. Somebody new was coming in, and coaches were going. It was really hard. It was really hard to perform in New Jersey.
Now, I remember as a kid, you telling me, a few stories during that time around, about Larry Brown starting 5 Black players. Can you talk about, I know you're talking about what's going on the court, but can you, kind of dive into the off the court things that even, a lot of players, I'm sure these days in professional sports go through, but it's really not talked about. Some people may talk about it,
Yeah.
but how unprecedented was that at that time for Larry Brown to start, 5 Black players, and what kind of, backlash did he get or heat did he get from that at that time?
Yeah, you're talking about 1981, 82. And I remember he was starting 5 Black players my first year there. And he and I was in the locker room, and Larry Brown was in the locker room with me. We were on the road. And he said, Otis, I want to show you something. And he started unbuttoning his dress shirt. I'm like, what is this man doing? He's unbuttoning his shirt. And he had a rash all over his chest and his back, and he called it a nerve rash. And Larry Brown was receiving death threats. His kids were threatened in school. The assistant coach, somebody wrote KKK on his driveway. And all of that stemmed from starting 5 Blacks. I received, I hurt my knee, and in New Jersey and the New York area, they bet on a lot of games. They bet all the time. I mean, if you mess up that point spread, they coming at you. And so I can remember being hurt the first part of the season in New Jersey. I was receiving hate mail and death threats and stuff because I wasn't playing. And these people serious. They betting on those games. They want to win some money. And so I received a death threat before in the mail. Mm-hmm. And then one game, the NBA security came up to me before the game started and said, Otis, we got a death threat tonight. And come to find out that in that area, in New Jersey area at that time, the Mafia and the KKK and all of that was up there. But Larry started 5 Blacks and he caught some heat from it. That's a true story too.
I don't think I've ever asked you this as a player though, mentally, how did you get through that? Because you hear a lot of scrutiny now, like you talked about before. It's just different way the media is and rankings and everything like that. Social media, especially. At that time, for you to receive those threats, Coach Brown received those threats. How did you get through that being a young player? Like, what really got you through that process?
I'm gonna be quite honest. At one time, I even thought about, especially when I was hurt, I couldn't play. I missed like 30 games or 30 some games my first year there. It was really hard. And I was thinking about even walking away from the game. I really did. Um, it was a hard time. Thankfully that I was married. In fact, you wasn't born at that time because it was my first year there. And it was just your mom and me. And it was tough. You just deal with it. And you really don't think, even though when you get threats like that and hate mail, people just mad and pissed off, as opposed to now they acting on it. Back then, I think it was more so people just frustrated. But when you have knee surgery and you're hurt, you can't play. What you gonna do? So you just deal with it.
Yeah. And I think, during that time, 1981, it's funny, I had started college back then. And in New York City, it still was very much the wild, wild west. People don't realize during the 80s, you had so many things going on, and you have a very congested city where the crime rate was up. We went through having David Jenkins, the first Black. I mean, and it's not as far away as people think, that the racism issues that we were dealing with in the 80s and in your 70s, it just came to a head now even more. But
we were a little more sheltered being in New Jersey,
mm-hmm.
because we lived in Upper Saddle River, in one of the exclusive areas. In fact, Joe Morris was former Giant running back, was right next door to me. Lawrence Taylor and Bill Parcells, the head coach of the Giants, Lawrence Taylor, they were around the corner from me. Mm-hmm. So we were in an exclusive area. We were kind of shielded, or when we played the Knicks. So right. A lot of the issues they were dealing with in New York, we weren't dealing with in New Jersey, except for the crazy fans. And, I mean, our fans, I'm just being honest, back then, when Boston or Philadelphia or a team like that came over to play us, they had more fans than we did. I mean, Larry Bird and those guys would get like a standing ovation during the introduction. I'm like, is this our home court or what? It was crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, it was tough playing in Jersey. It really was.
Yeah. Now, but during your time there, you made your 4th All-Star appearance, and you guys had success. You guys beat the defending champion Philadelphia 76ers in the first round of 1984 playoffs. That was a big highlight. Also a highlight, I would say, you played with 2 characters, Mike Ray Richardson and Daryl Dawkins. And, always, want to know during that time, what was that like being on a team with that kind of, those kind of characters, Daryl being Chocolate Thunder, with his dunks and things like that. And of course, Michael Ray with his stories of, I remember sometimes being at practice, I think you told me a long time ago, he would, you guys would be stretching and he'd be on the side doing his own thing, shooting the basket, talking about, man, I'm over here ready. You got to quit stretching and come over here. So like, what was that time like for you guys?
I don't know how I would have gotten through playing in New Jersey without Daryl and Sugar. I mean, really, Daryl was the most fun guy to be around. I never forget one time we played the Philadelphia 76ers. We would bus up to Philly, about 2-hour ride, two or 3 hour ride, about 2 hours from Jersey. And I went to use the bathroom on the bus, the restroom. And Daryl always sat at the back of the bus because he's big, got the long legs. And I went back and Daryl sitting in the back of the bus. He had the Bible open, which, you think that's a good thing. But then I looked and he had a beer in each hand. I'm like, Daryl, who reads the Bible with beer in their hand, bro? That was so funny.
Right.
But we had so much fun with Darren, and Sugar was like, he never stretched because he couldn't touch his toes. He only got 3 hours of sleep a night, seriously. And that boy could run all day, never got hurt, and you know, he used to have a real bad stuttering problem. Not so much now, but back then he couldn't even get a word out. And Daryl's so crazy, he would be hitting him in the back. Come on, Sugar, get it out, get it out. But we had a lot of fun. We really did with those two guys. I mean, and to your point, Sean, that was probably the most fun I had. That particular team when we beat Philadelphia in the first round, when we were like an 8th seed, they were defending champs. We beat them 3 times on their home court. New Jersey might as well not make the trip up here. They should just mail the score in because ain't no way they could beat us. And we went up there and got them. And we had a lot of momentum. Then we went to Milwaukee in the second round and won the first game at Milwaukee. Was leading the second game in Milwaukee with like 20-some seconds to play. We were up 1 with the ball. Sugar dives on the floor, sits up and passes it, and they call traveling. Mm-hmm. If they don't call traveling, we keep the ball and we go up 2-0, winning the first 2 at Milwaukee. And they end up beating us. You say we didn't have anything in the tank. New Jersey had taken it all out of us in order to beat them. So, but that's the most fun I had. And Joe Taub, who used to own the Nets, Stan Albeck was the coach at the time. And we stayed in touch with Joe until he died. In fact, we still do camps, as you know, in New Jersey for his foundation. He said the biggest mistake that he ever made as owner of the Nets was firing Stan Albeck. Because we had turned the corner. That's the most fun that I had. That's when I made the All-Star team. That's when Sugar was rolling, when Stan was there. Darryl Dawkins had his best year when Stan was there. But everybody was benefiting from Stan because his offense was so prolific, and we also played defense. But Joe Taub said that's the biggest mistake he ever made his owner, firing Stan Albeck.
Now, you finished, your career with the Boston Celtics in 1989, going to the playoffs. You went there to replace, the injured Larry Bird during that time, and you retired shortly thereafter. After 12 years, over 12,000 points scored, shooting 51% for your career. What was the retirement transition like for you? And what kind of adjustment was that going from all these years of playing basketball to now you're not playing anymore? What was that like for you?
It was actually a relief.
Interesting.
I didn't enjoy practicing anymore. When I would go to practice, even being in Boston, I didn't want to be there. The games, I was basically going through the motion. And it had a lot to do with, I was, of course, your mother and I were going through a divorce. I was away from you in Sydney. So basketball, I didn't want to do it. Actually, I had a chance to go overseas and make a whole lot of money. But I told Bob Wolf, I said, no, I'm not going overseas. I have 2 young sons. I'm not going to be away from them. Playing ball is bad enough that I'm going through a divorce. And now you want me to go overseas and be away from them? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But interesting story. I don't tell this story a lot. When I was a free agent after I left New Jersey, Jerry Krause, the general manager of the Chicago Bulls, called me. And he wanted me to come in and play with Michael Jordan. And he said, Otis, I'll play you and Michael sometime together. But you're going to come in. I want you to back him up. You're not going, I'm sure we'll play together sometime, but I want you to come in. We want to sign you. I said, Jerry, that sounds good. I said, what you going to give me? What are you offering? He said, we're not going to give you any guaranteed money. I'm sure you'll make the team with your talent, no problem. Jerry, I'm a 4-time All-Star. You're not going to give me any guaranteed money? 100,000, 200, 500, something? He said, we're not going to give you any guaranteed money, Otis. I promise you're going to make the team, and then we'll pay you well. I can't do it, Jerry. I said, I got to have some guaranteed money. Something. And they end up signing Craig Hodges. and they won the championship.
Mm.
I could have been on that team. I spoke to Jerry Krause personally, not through my agent. I talked to Jerry Krause. He did not want to give me one penny guaranteed money. He said, "I'm sure you'll make the team." I'm like, "No. My body, you're not going to wear me out, and then I go up there and you cut me? No, I need some guaranteed. 50,000, 100,000, something."
Right.
And I didn't go.
And, you look at that now with all the guaranteed contracts and how well the players are treated. And I would say it's on you guys, the veterans, that saw some of the things that needed to be changed within the NBA for the players' well-being. And that goes to the point that for 3 years, you were the chairman of the board for the Retired Players Association. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I really enjoyed being on the board for 7 years, especially as chairman, although it was one of the toughest things I ever did. I mean, when you have 12 different ideas, thoughts, and opinions about how something should be, it's crazy. We would have literally 3-hour board calls on the phone.
Remember.
There's nothing that important to talk about for 3 hours. But when the rules are that everyone has an opportunity to express themselves, you end up with 3-hour board calls who are members of our organization. They have insurance, health insurance, which is huge. It has saved a lot of lives. I was talking to Bobby Dandridge yesterday, a great player who should be in the Hall of Fame, former Washington Bullet and Milwaukee Bucks, won a championship with Kareem in Milwaukee, won one with Evan Hayes in Washington, 4-time All-Star, great stats. He said that if he didn't have that insurance, as much as he has to go to the doctor, there's no way he would be able to pay the bills. And so that is one of the greatest things our organization has ever done, provide health insurance for our former players, because it is so needed. And as you know, well, you don't know because you're still a young teeny bopper. You know, when you get in your 60s, your body starts really breaking down. And even though I try to go, just get annual checkups, go to the cardiologist, go to the urologist, you go see all these people to get checkups. A lot of people don't like going to the doctor. You get checkups. And so that stuff is expensive. Just walking in there, the co-pays and blah. But without this health insurance, a lot of guys would be in a lot of trouble. And I'm thankful. And our organization does a great job, but the thanks goes to the NBA. Because the NBA, first of all, they give us $3 to $4 million annually to help support our organization. And the current players, they are solely responsible, not the NBA. The current players provide insurance for the former players, not the NBA. It's the current players who decided, Chris Paul and LeBron and those guys. So when you see former players bad-mouthing LeBron and all those guys, I wish I could catch one, because they could easily take that insurance away from us and we'd be in a hurt. I mean, insurance is expensive, very expensive.
Right. Now, with you being a chairman, you've worn, I guess, many hats, after your playing days. In addition to you being a chairman of the Retired Players Association, you worked with, Hall of Fame football player Roger Staubach, doing business ventures with him. You also was, general manager of 2 professional sports teams, and you actually won 2 championships. You said you say you were kind of relieved from, your playing days. That was a relief to get that out of the way, I guess. When you started winning championships and getting to these other ventures, how was that feeling for you? And what was the difference between the general manager aspect and the chairman aspect as opposed to just playing?
Playing was a lot easier. When you are the general manager, especially I was the general manager of a G League basketball team eventually, you're responsible for every aspect of the organization, especially in minor league basketball, which means I picked the dance team coordinator. I had to be at the dance team tryouts, the trainer, the ticket guy, the head marketing guy, the coach, the assistant coach. I mean, every aspect of the organization, the hotels where the visiting team is going to stay in, travel, buses, uniforms, sponsorships. Everything crosses your desk when you're the general manager of a minor league basketball team, especially starting from scratch. These were not established teams. So you got to pick this facility you're going to play in, the coaches, create the tickets, the marketing package. I mean, it's a huge undertaking, but it's so gratifying to win a couple of championships as a general manager. And I actually played in the CBA before I went to the Celtics, played for Henry Bibby in the CBA back when the CBA was prominent, and won a CBA championship. I have a CBA championship ring with the Tulsa Fast Breakers. So that was fun also. But being a general manager is a tough job, especially on the minor league level. And I know it's tough in the NBA as well. But it was very gratifying, taught me a lot, especially with marketing and sponsorships and, meeting with corporate giants. It was huge. Great learning experience for me.
Now, going from that, I know you do a lot of things with the youth, and you're very committed to, especially empowering the community and letting them know that there's adults that's willing to help through your Ball Stars youth camps in the summer. And just overall, I know if you can share with our audience a little bit about that because I know that's one of your passions, just really giving back to the community, especially at-risk youth.
Yeah, and Michael and I have been doing that for like 9 years. And it actually started out after we won the championship in Lawton, Oklahoma. We actually used to charge the kids a minimum fee to help, freight the cost. We used to charge the kids like $100. But we came to find out, Sharon, that even $100 was a lot for a lot of these kids, especially underserved kids in those areas. And so we decided to do camps for free and actually ask sponsors to pay for the cost of the camp. And as each year passed, I've come to understand that it's such a great need, not just for basketball camp, but life skills. These kids, especially our brown and Black kids, they don't have the opportunity to experience the stuff that we offer them. But I'm more concerned with kids being able to communicate. Kids knowing the importance of education, health, awareness, hygiene. When I was growing up, I used to get a whipping if I didn't brush my teeth. A lot of these parents these days, the kids, they come to camp, they don't comb their hair, their teeth is not brushed. They don't wear deodorant, And so we want to focus on the life skills. That's why we've started. You haven't joined us the last few years, but we even have the fire department come out and teach the kids CPR. We have a professional who actually comes out and talks to the kids about social media, because these kids don't know. They're sending these photographs and pictures. And one of the speakers explained to the kids, one of these high school kids, he was a senior in high school, and he was sending pictures to this girl who was in junior high school. He was sending her nude pictures. Well, they arrested him. You can't do that. These kids think they can just send nude pictures and we're just having fun. No, that's a crime. You can't do that. And so the dangers of social media on one hand is great. On the other hand, there's a danger. And plus these men, you thinking you're talking to a young man and he want to meet you somewhere, and it's a grown up. And so we want to talk to the kids about that. Basketball is secondary. But what really hit home for me last year, and I need to send you a copy of the sponsorship packet that we're sending out this year. Last year, we were not able to have camps for the kids. So we gave them backpacks and school supplies. And we went in those same neighborhoods that we normally go in, but a lot of the Hispanic population came out, whites and Hispanics, poor whites and Hispanics were standing in line to receive, because we gave the kids over 30 items. It's for school supplies, 30 items already packed. We gave them regulation backpacks. And so that touched me so much in Winter Haven and in Belgrade and those areas that I'm implementing that full time. And all the stuff we gave them last year during the pandemic, we're doing the same thing again this year. And going forward, we're going to do it because it just makes such a huge difference. You can see the parents, you can see it in their eyes. They come up with 3 or 4 kids and they're just poor and it's needed. And so this year, I'm happy to say we're going to do that again this year like we did during the pandemic.
Right.
That's wonderful.
And those camps are always fun. I always enjoy that. Sharon, Sharon's been around it. And, those kids is coming in. A lot of the kids are funny. Each year we always get different characters. What would your message, I know the message that we talk about during the summertime when I'm helping you with your camps, about the dangers of social media, alcoholism, marijuana, drugs, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
For players or students who are aspiring athletes, what would be your message, you being a former NBA player, and not even just the basketball, but just the journey of everything you know now? What would be your message to aspiring athletes that want to get into playing sports, or in particular basketball?
Well, hindsight is always 20/20.
Mm-hmm.
And even in high school, when you look back, the stuff that you put in your body, the diet, the burgers and the fries and the shake, when you're young, your eating habits are so bad. For athletes who really are inspired and really want to make it, I would say, first of all, you have to take care of your body because that is the tool that is going to get you where you want to go. So that's why LeBron can play for so long. He got a chef. He eats right. He gets his rest. He has a massage therapist. He spends millions on his body. That's why he can play. You have to take care of your body. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys, they break down because they want to hang out, they want to smoke weed, they want to do this, and they're not taking care of their bodies. LeBron takes care of his body first and foremost. You have to do that. I mean, that's when I look back, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what I know now, I wouldn't be drinking 2 or 3, 4 beers the night before a game, thinking I'm young and it's not going to affect me, and still go out and get 20-something points. But imagine how many you would have had if you. And my mom used to tell me all the time. She said, "Otis, it makes you sluggish the next day. I know you think it's out of your system, but you can't stay up all night drinking 4 or 5 beers and then go play the game." I mean, so you have to really, and these guys, that's the advantage they have nowadays. They have nutritionists, they have massage therapists, they have strength and conditioning coaches. They have all of that now. So that's why these guys can play longer. But for the young kids, I would say start out taking care of your body, and it'll be a habit. And these kids these days, though, they have all the advantages. Not the underserved kid, but most of the kids, they have advantages. A lot of these underserved kids, and that's why what you do, Sean, your goal is to get a lot of these kids who don't have an opportunity to be seen to be seen. Exactly. And that's needed because you don't have coaches and scouts in West Palm Beach going down to look at the kids in Belgrade. That's a third world country to them. They don't go there. Yeah. They're not going down there to recruit those kids unless they're playing football, but they're not going down there for basketball. They're afraid. I'm talking about white people in West Palm Beach are afraid to drive and go down to Belgrade because they're afraid for their lives. They're not going to Belgrade. When was the last time you saw on TV a kid from Belgrade playing basketball? You see it in football.
Right. It's usually a lot of football players. Yeah. Right.
Not basketball.
Right.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, just that experience with you guys in Belgrade. And again, I never forget, first time I saw Belgrade, because again, I was in Orlando and I couldn't understand, like, oh, it's tough here. And I had my little, you don't know tough, I'm from New York, I'm from the Bronx, baby, right? And my mouth just opened when I saw the level of poverty. And for me, it was an eye-opening experience. I said, this is not happening in the 2000s. I still had a hard time wrapping my head around it, that, they showed me like a trailer. It says, oh, yeah, 14 people live in there. I'm like, what? And you don't, people forget about these very rural areas, what's going on, especially the high risk in the community. These kids don't go out. Some of these young ladies were having babies at 13, 12 years old. And my mind was like, well, are you kidding me? But just going there, I think also fueled my passion for just making a difference for young ladies and women and being so engaged as I am. And I just love how you guys just make basketball, as a tool to make a difference, saying you can be better.
So we had Jeffrey Jordan on about a few months ago, and he described how Michael and Juanita really didn't push their kids to play sports. And he was like, yeah, if you want to play sports, I guess Michael was like, hey, you want to play sports? That's fine. If not, you don't have to. You do other things. So Jeffrey talked about how he played football and other things like that. Well, we had Mom on, and I asked her, I said, well, Mom, why did you always just say, you don't have to play basketball if you don't want to, and blah, blah, blah. And she told me, she knew what I would have to deal with and all of that. So I'm asking you for the first time, I remember I was in 7th grade. And, I was trying for the teams, and even 8th grade, when I made the team, everything, you'd be like, you know what, Sean, you don't have to play basketball if you don't want to. And I'll be like, I'm in 8th grade, like, why does he keep saying that? And even in high school, with all that stuff we were going through at Bonner, and, we were winning everything, you would still say, you don't have to play basketball. What was that as a dad that made you say that, like, repeatedly?
Because people think just because a father has played a particular sport that the son automatically has to play that particular sport. And you look at the hoopla, Tiger Woods let his son play in a tournament, and you see how the people just went ballistic, want to interview the kid and talk to him, and now the pressure is going to be on that kid to be great like his dad. It wasn't important to me that you and Sydney played basketball. And if you remember, after every game, I'd ask you, first of all, did you have fun? What you learned? Yeah, I want you to win, but the game is supposed to be enjoyable. So I could care less as to whether or not you play basketball or not, or any sport for that matter. I mean, because your value to me as a son has nothing to do with whether or not you play basketball. And actually, it's going to heighten the expectations on me too, because, oh, that's your son? Like, he's supposed to be good because not necessarily. Just because you're somebody's son don't mean you're supposed to be good. You all turned out to be very good basketball players, but I wasn't going to put that added burden on you. No way. Unfortunately, and, just the way Yahweh Elohim had it work out, you went to a school where you wasn't pushed. You played at a school where the competition, I mean, you didn't have anybody on your team that could push you. The coach couldn't push you. First of all, he couldn't push you because he didn't know what he was doing. And that's the truth of the matter. And I never got involved with that. I never said anything. I just sat in the stands, never called him or complained. He didn't have a clue. And you all had a real good team your one year, especially your senior year. But the guy didn't have a clue. But I wasn't getting involved with that. I mean, I let your mom yell in the stands and yell at the coach and the players. I wasn't doing that. I was there to support you and enjoy watching you play. Wanted you to do well, but I wasn't trying to push you to play basketball. Sydney either.
Right.
You were in the helicopter dad.
In fact, I'm glad Sean brought that up, because my oldest son, your brother, Terrence, he was a great running back at Winter Haven High School. And he got an offer to play at Temple University to play football. But because of the peer pressure, he felt that he had to play basketball. So instead of going to Temple to play football, he wanted to go to school at the University of Houston and wanted me to get him a tryout. First of all, they don't just give you scholarships. So he was in school, and the coach wanted him to come out doing the preseason where you lift weights and run and do all of that. Terrence didn't want to do that. I guess he just figured, no, when they start playing, that's when I want to go. And the coach ended up telling me that. He said, Otis, it's not fair, first of all, that your son wouldn't come out during the preseason workout. He didn't make it. But why turn down the football scholarship, a free ride to college, and try to play basketball? Maybe basketball is not your sport.
Right.
If you got a football offer, it seemed to me you're pretty good in football. But because he wanted to try to play basketball, he did, and he tried out that one time, and it's obvious he wasn't serious about basketball because he never tried to try out again or get in shape and do that, you know. So.
Well, we always ask our guests, it could be off the court, on the court, what does being an American baller mean to Otis Birdsong?
Me being an American baller means that I'm the dad of the original creator of American Baller, Sean Birdsong.
I like that.
All right. And I have to ask you also, I see you wearing the University of Houston shirt. How far do you think your former Cougars are going to go in the tournament this year?
Well, I don't get emotional, and just because I went to school somewhere, I like the team. I don't say, well, they're gonna win it all. I really do like this team, though. I think for sure, I'd be surprised if they didn't make the Final Four. I don't know as far as winning it all, but they got a very, very good team. In fact, I stay in touch with Coach Sampson throughout the year. He told me Sunday that he really, really loves this team. The second best defensive team in the nation. They're the number one offensive team in the nation, and they have scores. And I love the makeup of this team. I think they have the ability and capability of winning it all, but I truly think they should be able to get to the Final Four. I really do. Got a very good team. In fact, they lost 3 games this year. I was telling Deborah this morning, and I saw the game. They should have been undefeated. They lost 2 close ones, and then the one game they laid an egg at East Carolina. East Carolina shot like 60-something% from the field, and Houston shot like 30-something%. One of those games, it happened, and they got beat by a terrible East Carolina team. So they really should have been undefeated this year. But I like the chances. I really do.
I appreciate your time and you being on the show. Always welcome back.
Yeah, my partner told me that he's going to do the show next week.
Yep, we got Sugar on next week.
That's good.
You have my sympathy.
Don't worry, we'll manage.
No, I'm just kidding. He'll be great.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate you, Dad.
All right, man. Love you.
Late too.
Good seeing you, Sharon.